How about looting?
Hmm.
We definitely heard a lot of stories really early on. There's a couple of shootings at gas stations, people
Mhm.
trying to cut lines, people trying to steal stuff.
Mhm.
Did hear of also the Ingles, which is a big grocery store in Swananoa,
It's
was
one.
looted
Mhm.
like 2 days after the storm.
Yeah,
It had
very
been
early on.
ransacked.
Yep.
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 Um, I haven't heard too much of Asheville, but it's only because not a lot of people in our area have been able to make it over to the Asheville area to really hear of everything that's been happening over there. It's really been here's what's happening in Black Mountain, Swananoa. We did hear a story, or actually a neighbor let us know. Guy in Black Mountain was having to stand guard of his home 24/7 because people were coming by trying to loot his house and stuff. So
Mhm. They thought
yeah,
it was abandoned.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean, we made sure we took our precautions to at least keep ourselves and our neighbors protected.
Mhm.
Make sure that if there was anybody coming in to look at stuff, that
They
they
were
would be met with
real.
force
Mhm.
and
That we knew who was
that
coming in and out.
yeah.
I know your chief has been like awesome on that. Like he
Yes.
has set up police officers
Yes.
in roads that have access into Black Mountain,
Yes.
and they are stopped and they are asked, why are you coming into Black Mountain? What are you
Mhm.
going to be doing in there? So they have been
Mhm.
really, really good with preventing the scammers and the looters from coming into Black Mountain.
Yeah, every single one of our exits along 40 that I've been, and again, like Drew said, actually, I haven't been able to make it actually into Asheville. I've only been in Black Mountain and Swananoa since this hit. But at every single one of our exits that we've gone past, there's been a police officer stationed at the exits. And while they may not necessarily be stopping, it's a huge presence. Um, we have police we have volunteers that have come in from different police districts, right? We have some from right outside of Charlotte, some from Tennessee, some from Louisiana. Like it's pretty common for us to actually see other cruisers just having presence in our area to make sure that it's understood that there is order here to try and prevent any sort of further violence or disorder or really anything like that.
So Black Mountain's been pretty safe then.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Good.
yep. Yep. And I would say probably the closer you are to probably like the center of town, which we are decently close to the center of town. We're only 2 miles
Yeah.
away
Yeah.
from the center of Black Mountain. So probably the closer you are to town, probably the safer and the more presence is actually there. Technically, we are actually still under curfew as well. 7 a.m. to 7
You are.
p.m. Yep.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yep.
Another thing that the first responders had to deal with, which we didn't even think about, was when power was starting to get turned back on about a week after the storm.
Yeah.
When they first were able to get a good section in town power back, they had 4 house fires instantly because of some of the damage that the houses
The
had
surge.
received. The surge, there was exposed wires that people didn't know about, and so that's another thing that we've been, or the towns have been having to deal with was once power is restored to certain places, how many places are catching on fire because of it. As water is getting turned back on, leaks are popping up because they're finding there is still weak spots in the water lines. So flooding associated with that too. So every day there's still a little bit of improvement, but there's also seems like a little bit of a setback every time there is a little bit of improvement.
Yeah.
I've said it for a while. Little baby steps is all it seems like we can take each day, right? And trying to stay on the little bit more positive, trying to stay on the little bit more positive, outlook. Is the small little baby steps each day.
So are there any businesses open in Black Mountain right now?
Normal businesses. So that's actually a great question. Without really the standard like running water, right? Without the water infrastructure being fully fixed, the majority of the businesses have sort of turned into those donation and supply places. However, I think I heard of 2 just yesterday right downtown that did reopen. I'm not sure how, maybe they did end up getting their water back, or they have some other type of water source that they've been able to bring in there. One was a restaurant and bar, I'm forgetting the name, and another one was a small shop. So it's it, it it's super small.
So everybody's just basically waiting for water
Mm-hmm.
to be able to start opening businesses up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and still so many of them too are trying to clean mud out of
Yeah.
their places and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little
Yeah.
bit
Oh,
about the
yeah.
toxic mud.
Oh.
Another thing that we had.
Oh.
So I know. So yet another thing that we might have to deal with that people might not have heard of. So with all this massive flooding, a lot of the businesses and factories that actually did get hit did get taken out by the French Broad River or the Swananoa River or any of the tributaries, any of the creeks that turned into rivers and that sort of thing. Some of those places had chemicals. And so we heard that in cleaning up any of this mud, any of the remaining, we haven't had rain here in a while, which I mean, we're thankful for, but
Yeah.
Any of this mud that has sort of turned into like sand and dust and stuff like that, we are being warned. It's not for a panic. It's more for of a, just make sure that you're being smart as you are trying to clean out and help within your community. There may be toxicities in the mud, unknown chemicals, right? Unknown chemicals from those plants, possible decay from the people that got swept away, bacteria, obviously from ecosystems being upturned and stuff like that. So, anybody that actually is cleaning up the mud, they're actually running the risk of exposing themselves to possibly harmful chemicals too.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the last advisory we got from the town officials was that when water is restored, which they're hoping will be in a couple of days, that it's to be used only for the toilets. You can't even bathe in it. You can't boil it for drinking water. It's going to take a long time, it sounds like, until we have at least fresh water where we can actually shower, clean our clothes. So we definitely have lucked out with my sister. Her house, which is about a mile down the road, is on its own well and septic. So once they got power back, a week after the storm had hit, we were able to at least shower for the first time. So it was a week with just taking antibacterial wipes and trying to wipe down. Mm-hmm. But even with that, it's now, 4 households using one shower and bathroom that'll flush. So that's also been, scheduling here and trying to figure it out. But yeah, the simple things in life. Can't wait to just take a shit and flush our own toilet.
Or just be able to wake up and just take
without
a shower.
having to go down to a creek and here's 5 gallons of water and lug it up and bottle it up. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that was good information because on the news, I've been seeing a lot of people wearing masks.
Yes.
As they're cleaning up.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's smart.
I wasn't sure if it was because of the smell from the septic, decomposed bodies, or if there was a specific reason for it.
It's also super dusty from the mud that was laid on. So, I mean, if you go into like the Swananoa Black Mountain area, just everything had just a layer of mud on it. And then a couple of days after, it was just beautiful weather. So that just dried up and just it's just a sandstorm if you're driving.
I definitely think the masks are definitely the precaution from either the sand, sort of like the dust storms that are actually sort of occurring now, possible toxicity in the mud, but also you are right, Jane, the backup of the sewage and also the smell of possible, bodies and or parts that are being recovered as well. I've heard some rescue teams are encountering horrendous smells.
I'm sure. I mean, it's warm down there. I mean, what is your average temperature been every day?
I mean, the first couple of days after the storm, it was getting up into the 90s to the point of it was actually hot, especially with no AC or fans or anything like that. It was,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yep.
That was actually one of the first things that everybody did once we did get power back, was actually putting the AC on to cool it down.
Central air.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now it's interesting. It's one of those periods where, like, I would say typically our average temperature is probably more hovering over 70 because of, you know, the time that's passing, and we're technically getting into our fall down here, right? Temperatures are actually almost dropping to freezing throughout the night, but then, you know, coming back up. We're actually going into a cold spell this week where our highs are only going to be around 60-ish, you know, in that range, and lows are dropping pretty low. So again, those people that were displaced that haven't actually found shelters, a lot of people are actually camping in tents and things like that. That's why a lot of the supplies that are being put out there where it's being asked for is turning into more winter gear. It's because of that, right? The tents, the warm clothes, that sort of thing. So even though we are in the South, we do experience all the seasons, right?
Yeah.
And so we do get cold down here.
Mm-hmm.
After this week, it does look like it might get back up into the 70s, which would be hopeful. But yeah, our temperatures do fluctuate down here.
That was going to be my next question. What do you guys need down there? Like, not you personally, I guess as a community as a whole. What do you guys need down there? I understand water. But I don't mean like, I know that you guys have been having pretty good steady supplies of food and hygiene products and stuff like that coming in. But what do you guys need to move forward in the community?
I think it might end up being a combination of support for those organizations that are truly here and actually helping all of us rebuild, not just the individual homes, not just the roads, but the businesses too. So continued support for some of those organizations. And then eventually, once people get back to that, like, I'm sort of rebuilt and I can sort of open, support is the biggest thing that's actually popping in my mind. Like support for those actual, you know, businesses.
Yeah.
I hope that the local economy can recover in such a way where there's not a huge exodus of people leaving the community, but I wouldn't be surprised if that does. Well, people wouldn't want to, right? There's great, you know, faith and great pride in community, and every single person that I've sort of encountered wants to rebuild and wants to, you know, make sure that this community gets back to the beautiful booming state that it was at. I certainly wouldn't be surprised if people did have to, for sheer, you know, survival, that did have to, you know, sort of exit. And I'm sorry that that's not more specific, but it's so vast that it's really hard to sort of call out specifics. Drew, I don't know if you had any other ideas.
What about like do you guys need more resources for people to come in to rebuild the roads? Better access to other towns. Now the internet and cell phone service, that's all just temporary right now, right?
I think it is back for good now. For the longest time, there was, you know, we were utilizing a T-Mobile hotspot. They brought in a van with
Starlink.
They were able to put up a temporary, you know, cell tower off their truck, so that was able to get some service into town for, you know, the first.
Do you guys know who did that?
It was T-Mobile. I
Okay.
think every cell phone service had their different sort of mobile cell towers throughout the area. I think I saw AT&T had a van a little bit further in town. I had heard Verizon was on, you know, a little bit closer to the Asheville area. T-Mobile was stationed right in Black Mountain.
Elon Musk went in and supplied all the areas with Starlink.
Yes. Yep. So
I didn't know if you guys heard about that.
Yep. So one thing that I actually wanted, and it's actually kind of funny because I don't know if all that many people know this, but I saw this on one of my personal friends on her Facebook, how she had actually shared a link, and I sort of, put a response out there about that. So Elon, yes. So the public Wi-Fi stations, any of the public Wi-Fi stations that do actually have Starlink. Now, what Drew was talking about was the carriers themselves coming in and putting in separate stations. So that was definitely appreciated, but most all of those are actually gone. Starlink is actually still here at many of the public places. So, like our medical clinics, a lot of the massive supply places. So, Starlink is actually still here. And we know that Elon actually did that. There was a link very early on that was going around that kept on saying, "Oh, if you need if you're impacted and if you need Starlink, just click on this click on this link. It's free." Well, that link that was circulating on social media, I clicked on it because I was trying to get us back Wi-Fi so we could try and work somehow. And yes, the service was free for a month, but then you were paying for the equipment, which was $400. So I had put that out there just as a response. And then what I had actually seen was I know that Elon came in and did the Starlink at the public places and all that. But I saw a communication that was actually put out there by Elon too, saying that he was actually trying, not just those big, huge public places, he was trying to deliver equipment to some of the most desolate places, like actually give the boxes of equipment so you didn't actually have to pay for it. He was in process of doing that in some of the most desolate of our places, and he was shut down because he didn't know the names of the specific people, so he couldn't land his helicopters.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So he definitely, yeah, I know now after seeing that he was trying. It doesn't surprise me. I mean, he was trying. He was definitely trying to help out as much as he could, but yeah, there's sort of it seems weird that there would be so much red tape for someone just trying to help. Yeah, apparently you
There
can't land a
shouldn't
copter.
be, there should not be any red tape
Agreed.
Yep, exactly.
with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Anything with a devastation and with a disaster like this.
Mm-hmm.
There should be zero red tape
Mm-hmm.
for anything.
Yep.
Jesus.
Honestly,
and this really makes me feel for those that have had to deal with this in the past. The Katrina victims.
Oh yeah.
The wildfires in Hawaii.
They've been coming forward too.
Everybody around the country that has dealt with a natural disaster. I'm sorry, us in the Northeast, worst we get is snowstorms, and we just kind of know how to deal with it and live with it. You don't.
Yep.
You don't think of it as being destructive like this. So it truly caught me off guard. I never thought I'd ever witnessed something like this from a natural disaster. But it's made me really look back and went, I feel so goddamn bad for everybody that's been in our position beforehand that's been dealing with this for 20 years now.
Yeah.
With just the lack of the support when there is a natural disaster and the lack of empathy. And I can honestly say I probably definitely had lack of empathy at, not realizing how bad it could actually be. What is it like if you're going 3 weeks without communication? Never experienced that in my life. Now I have, and holy shit, does it make it goddamn difficult? It is very important. Yeah,
it is. Now, what about housing? Like, I know a lot of people have completely lost their homes. Are they needing like temporary mobile homes put in, temporary campers put in? That would be another thing that I imagine you guys really need down there.
Yeah, I've seen some, again, small organizations outfitting and trying to bring in like tiny homes and like sheds that were like outfitted with generators and like the basic things, bringing them into the most desolated communities to try and actually house some families comfortably and safer with colder weather coming. I have not heard about that being funded or helped with any sort of thing with the government. meaning federal or state or otherwise. I've only seen that sort of outpouring sort of come in, and those initiatives come in again from private, smaller humanitarian organizations. So yeah, housing is going to be a super big
What are
concern.
these people that don't have housing right now that literally lost their homes? Where are they? What are they doing?
I think there's I know that shelters were put up and in place, but you know as well as I know, especially if you were like say like we were displaced, right? Me and Drew and Obs, like you can only live in a shelter for so long. I think that I've heard of people leaving, right, and housing with people, either family or friends outside the area that they know. And the people that don't have anything and the people that sort of like refuse to and want to make sure and rebuild here, I believe if they're not in a shelter or housed with, their neighbor or a friend or something like that, they're intense.
Are they putting them up in hotels or anything like that? Are they
Yep.
putting them?
Yes, I think some are being put up in hotels, but I think also a lot of the first responders and volunteers from outside the area are being housed in a lot of hotels in the area.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that sort of housing, it definitely is temporary too. Right.
Yeah, but I would think that they would be like, um, cold weather's coming,
Yeah.
and I've been up there. I've been or down there. I've been down there in the winter before,
Mm-hmm.
and
Me too.
it gets cold.
Mhm.
It gets cold. I mean, you guys are up in the mountains, elevation.
Yep.
It gets freaking cold. And I would think that FEMA would be stepping in and like organizing something with housing for these people, uh, even temporary housing for these people that literally lost their homes, and getting some campers and trailers and mobile homes and something, tiny homes. Um, Tiny homes is a wonderful idea. You can hook up water, you can hook up sewer, you can hook up electricity.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
so I mean that's a
Yep.
beautiful idea, and it's temporary,
Mm-hmm.
but they need to figure something out. I would think.
Yeah, I haven't. I personally have not. I mean, there may be, but I personally have not heard about any sort of organization of that from the FEMA perspective. I do know that there are some people that did end up getting approved for hotel room stays through FEMA who were displaced from their homes, and I know of some people that were, and some people weren't. Some people were told yes, and then it was for like a couple of days. So, um, I just I understand what you're asking, and sort of like that mass that mass need.
Yeah.
I personally haven't heard of that in the works yet. But I agree with you. It's needed. And so we can only hope that either it from it that it comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
That sort of help comes from somewhere.
So to bring you guys the community
Mm-hmm.
To a place where you can see some normalcy, would be infrastructure
Mm-hmm.
repair,
Mm-hmm.
businesses opening,
Yep.
roads repaired.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine the debris and the cleanup that is going on down there. Or well, honestly, you guys have dumpsters being shipped into you guys
Yes,
for rubbish removal.
and that's another thing too, is that they're starting to ask for people that are bringing in massive amounts of supplies to be prepared to bring out trash with them. So, yes, those dumpsters are coming in and they're being filled the instant that they're in here. And to just remind people, we live in Black Mountain and we're named that because we have a huge black bear population. So, if we have a ton of trash and if we have a ton of all that hanging around, guess what that attracts? The bears aren't hibernating yet and they're hungry.
Yeah, we've actually had
Yeah.
to do a lot of trash pickup from the bears.
Yep.
Quite a few different times.
Well, it also is a lot of these trash companies don't have the access to come in
Yep.
Right.
That was the biggest thing was
get the rubbish to take it out.
Yep.
So I don't know. You guys have a landfill or no? You guys don't have a landfill there. You have rubbish companies coming in and taking the rubbish and taking it out of town.
I believe so. At least, yeah, we have dumpsters, and that's what I've been seeing. It's just dumpsters around town.
Yeah.
Once again, still so new to the area. I don't know if we have a landfill.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know the specifics about the landfills because specifically where we live, we do have, dumpsters for the park, so I don't know. I know that there are landfills around. I'm not sure if the landfills are actually open or if they got destroyed.
Oh, they're not. If you guys had a landfill, it's not open. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It might have been washed down the river.
Probably another
Yeah.
reason for the water boil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Notice once it comes back. Yeah.
So we're on road infrastructure,
Yeah.
business infrastructure,
Mhm.
Housing.
Housing infrastructure. Yeah.
Are you still waiting on water?
Mhm. Yeah. Another thing that I think that's going to naturally start occurring just because of how long this has been going on for now too is, volunteer fatigue. It's going to be a real thing, right? So
Yeah.
I'm seeing it firsthand, and everyone is exhausted and is tired, and so we know that there's tons of organizations and tons of volunteers that want to come in and actually help us, and that's fantastic. They're going to start being needed as we are exhausted and as the current people that are here are exhausted and they need to be relieved. We're going to need help for a while, so donor and volunteer fatigue. Yep.
Yeah, no, one thing that I did reached out to the town manager last week just to try to offer my services free of charge that I can to the local businesses, because I know how much of them have lost product, lost inventory, lost equipment, and just wanted to help offer them the financial side of things, how to account for that. And another idea that I do have, and I'll know more as I get to talking to the business owners, because I know that they're still right into the recovery mode, trying to still survive and help out the locals. They're probably not thinking of their businesses as a whole right now. So that's why I reached out to the town manager just this past week. So I'm like, this might be the better time for that. But part of the idea that I do want to have is I want to talk to the business owners to find out what equipment that they lost that they can't replace. And can we get some funding together to help replace anything, replace inventory, replace the equipment, replace point of sale systems, security, all of that stuff that they might have lost is, especially if FEMA's not going to help out and it is going to be on the private citizens through donations and stuff like that. That is one thing that I'll want to see if it's up and running. If not, getting up and running is some sort of funding to help these places, help these people that were impacted rebuild, to try to get the town, get the area back. So that way, because it's all a tourism area too.
It is
So it's got to be
a lot of tourism.
So it's got to be back up and running by the next spring. Is there any way that we can help expedite that process by getting new equipment that was damaged? Advertising, signs, stuff like that.
They had announced on TV that this is actually a big tourism time of the year for Black Mountain right now, and that you guys are just losing tens of millions of dollars.
That's right.
Just in these couple of months.
Yep, the Blue Ridge Parkway with the foliage.
Yeah.
Yep. The leaf peepers down here.
Yep.
It's funny because up there, I think the peak season definitely came and went already, right? Up in New Hampshire, or is it still peak?
Well, I'm in the very bottom of New Hampshire, and we're just peaking right now.
Okay.
I went up to Wilmington, Vermont, this past week, and yeah, their leaves are gone.
Gone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, down here it's typically mid to the end of October into the beginning of November is when normally like that the sort, and it all depends on your elevation, right?
Yeah.
It all depends on your elevation on where, where the peak season is and whatnot down here. But yeah, we just entered our peak foliage season. So
Yeah, so that's how I think we can kind of help out, is trying to just rebuild the area in any way possible.
Yeah.
And it can be little things. If there's any business owners out there that are listening, one thing that I encountered was so I sell a lot of stuff on eBay. Well, all of my shipping supplies were in our storage unit, so I lost all my envelopes, all my packing, everything. So I had merchandise that I could list now once we got internet back, but I had no way to ship the stuff. So it's like, fuck, I got to get on to replenishing that. So I bought some through eBay, and I just reached out to the people. I was like, listen, I've lost everything. Is there any way that you can expedite this shipping? I'll cover it. I need this stuff as soon as possible, because I had sold stuff while we're offline, and I'm sitting there going, there's no way for me to tell these people, I've got your stuff. It's going to take me a week to ship it out. Luckily, every single person that I had spoken to was completely understanding, sent their best regards. And the people that I did buy supplies from, they sent it right away, expedited shipping. So I got it within 2 days, didn't charge me anything, and just sending the best wishes. And it was their way of helping a business owner in this time of need. So I'm like, just those little things, it will go a long way. And trust me, I'm going to pay this forward if I have the opportunity to help out somebody that's been in a position like this too in the future. I'll bend over backwards to try to help them rebuild.
Yeah. Yep. See, that was another thing I was curious about. Are you guys getting mail service? Is UPS and FedEx able to go into deliver for you guys?
Yes.
Yeah. About a week after the storm hit, we were starting to get the shipping services. They were able to start dropping stuff off.
Yep. So for us specifically at our location, yes. Obviously, so they are running. I know that I'm pretty sure that the Swananoa post office was taken or is no longer. But our Black Mountain post office is there. The one right next to us too in Ridgecrest is there and is working. So it is possible to get mail and supplies in as long as the delivery point is passable.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. See, this is little things that people don't know.
Yeah.
Now, I was kind of curious about that too, because I did have a few people respond that wanted to send you guys down resources, but didn't know if you guys were able to receive the resources, through mail or UPS or FedEx, Amazon, anything like that.
Yeah. Oh, that's so appreciated, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We have so felt the love from the Jane. You were amazing in keeping everybody up to date on, what was happening with us. Once we saw that, we're all the love and support and the prayers and the well wishes. They were all so felt, and we really appreciate all of you guys for caring and for reaching out and for wanting to help us.
It's very much needed for us to feel that empathy from people. At the time, people were being very sympathetic towards the situation that Amanda and I were in, because our belongings weren't in a home or an apartment. People weren't feeling like it was flooded and washed away, even though we had. The only difference was our belongings weren't in our home. They were in a storage unit. So we got very little sympathy, very little empathy from a lot of people very early on. They weren't really comprehending, like, got to understand, we've lost everything. This was our start over. This was our next chapter. And we now have to do it from nothing. And so we were feeling it. We were definitely low. Morale was low. And then once we were able to get online and we saw that outpouring of support, it was very much needed. It definitely helped kickstart us to get out of that funk that we were in.
Mm.
Because I know Amanda wasn't quite at her rock bottom, but I had hit my rock bottom. There was no future to look forward to. Because what am I starting over with? I've got nothing. Still haven't sold our house, so we're homeless. That doesn't sell, we're going to lose it type of feeling, and just going, fuck, what's the point? What's the point on trying to rebuild if shit's just going to keep on piling on? And still, we're still kind of at that feeling because we still don't know what the future may bring for us. I mean, my business, what I do for a living is I'm a small business bookkeeper and financial consultant. I love to work with small businesses, and I like to buy storage units to resell online. Well, I'm looking at it going, every small business in the area has been washed away, or they're not going to be able to afford the services of a bookkeeper. And I'm not going to be able to buy storage units because all of them are flooded in the area. I'm going to have to drive 2.5 hours to find a storage unit that the product's not ruined. So that first week after the storm hit, I'm like, we've lost everything. I have no prospects of it working. Apart from me giving up this dream of being self-employed, being my own boss, taking control of my destiny is just taken away. And I'm going to have to go back to working jobs that can make you miserable and make it not worth wanting to wake up the following day. So be patient with us. There's still moments where we hit those moments of like just wanting to say fuck you to the universe and just scream and yell, but I haven't had those outbursts where I haven't just gone and punched trees just to let out some anger or anything like that, but we're getting there. But the outpouring of support that we've gotten, Jane, you, fucking love you, and you're helping us get through these dark times right now. You, the listeners, just everybody that we're seeing that outpouring of support. The random text I would get from people, that's what was needed.